Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Christian Schmidt, founder of Monkeybread software and creator of the MBS plugin, a toolkit that has become a major extension layer for many FileMaker developers. Through the MBS plugin, Christian has helped developers push FileMaker far beyond its out-of-the-box capabilities, including server-side automation, integrations, document generation, and a wide range of external technologies. Christian, it's great to have the opportunity to talk with you today. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me and inviting me to this recording.
In our document today, we have a full suite of areas that we can touch on: the foundation, creating PDFs, merging PDFs, and more information about the database server extensions, etc. So first of all, we want to really cover, Christian, and maybe you can comment on this. Why did you make Server Edition? It's I know that it has these independent contexts, serves three independent contexts: the database server, the web publishing, and the data API. Could you speak to that for just a moment, Christian?
Well, that's the way Claris designed it. Every engine runs separately, and you can load the plugin in each of them. So we have to make 3 copies of the plugin.
Christian, you have a wonderful installer that'll do that for users.
Well, we recently made a few scripts to help you, but basically it's just copying the right file into the right folder on the server.
Let's just take a look at the foundation for server installation. We want to discuss a bit on the DynaPDF licensing and the environment setup. So DynaPDF and its relationship to the MBS plugin. Could you let our folks watching today get a feeling of how those two connect?
Well, we have been working with the people from DynaPDF, I think, for 15 years or so. It's a separate company. They make a wonderful PDF engine, and we can interface them from FileMaker, so we can use all the functionality in FileMaker.
This is now a very mature product, isn't it?
Yes. We recently got the 5th version, and it has a lot of features. It evolved over time. We got the rendering with version 4. And we got a few more PDFA converter things recently. So we are very happy to see it getting maintained and extended over time.
We want to talk about licensing for just a little bit. Why don't you just give us the thumbnail sketch on licensing and how a corporation might purchase your software?
Yeah, well, if you use the plugin on the server side, you buy licenses for the number of servers you have. We have some flat rate prices for bigger companies. So if you don't want to count the servers, you can buy the site license for your site. We have a seats license for the clients. That's for FileMaker Pro usually. DynaPDF goes per developer, so usually you buy it based on the number of people working on the solution, not the people using it.
Interesting. That's a great model.
Yeah, DynaPDF is a C library made for developers, but the plugin is also bought by the users.
And we have a little sheet here, a slide on total cost to achieve. We have the MBS plugin server. We have the developer version DynaPDF, and you can see your totals there. What I want to talk about a bit more is the server installation, the 3 locations. Each context requires its own plugin copy, critical for full coverage. And this allows this plugin to do a real wide array of remarkable things. Perhaps you could just give us one more sense, if you will, Christian, on like, what does that allow users to do in a concise sense?
Well, we follow Claris to have the installations, and you may even have more than one server. Like you may have several servers for your web publishing, where you have one master server and then several secondary servers to balance the load. So you would have to install the plugin on each of these servers. Then with server scripting, you can now have several server scripting processes. So there may be several processes running, and each one has a copy of the plugin. And in each of these instances where the plugin is loaded, you can run scripts to use the plugin. And I think that's fantastic.
It's wonderful. Yes. This is where I was talking about earlier. You've developed some wonderful automated installation scripts for users to make it very easy to get the very latest version installed, regardless of your operating system. There is, in this document, we go over some of the post-installation and verification, where you can make sure everything has been done absolutely perfectly. Now let's talk a little bit about creating PDFs from scratch, the PDF life cycle, and the write text versus write F text, and some other things here. So the PDF lifestyle, if we've got this right, and again, Christian, I really appreciate your input on this guide. But we're going to initialize, new, build, save, and release. Can you speak to that as the developer, how kind of simple this is?
Well, you initialize DynaPDF once in your start script of the solution. Then you can, in any script, just call DynaPDF new to create a new context, which gives you a unique identifier for your current PDF work in progress. You can have several scripts running at the same time, each with its own context. You can pass this to subscripts and do work there. Then in your PDF context, you create a new PDF, you append pages or you import pages, you can edit pages, you can set fonts, text, add images, add tables, whatever you like. And then when you're finished and you like to keep your work, you can save the PDF to a container or to a file. And on the end, you release your context. Sometimes you just open a PDF, import it, and then you will look up things like extract text, extract images, so you don't need to save it. Other times you create a PDF from scratch without importing. It depends on what you want. It's very flexible.
My goodness. And I think a lot of people are really amazed, Christian, that you got this done. This seems like quite a remarkable task. So kudos to you. Maybe you could give me just a quick understanding of the difference between write text versus write F text.
So white text just puts a certain piece of text on a certain position of the page, and that's all. White F text allows you to have formatted text, which is text with some special commands for DynaPDF to do styling. Like you can change the font or the font size, or you can have bullet points for a list. And we have a function to convert from FileMaker style text to DynaPDF style text. So you can have people enter something in a field with color, with bold, italics, and then translate that for the PDF. And the ftext functions allow you to pass a text rectangle, so you can define where the text goes on the page. It automatically wraps for you. If the box is full, you can have a continuation on a different page, on a different column, a different text box on the same page, whatever you like. And so you can have a call to write ftext, which outputs something like 20 pages of text with new pages in between in different columns, all automatically.
Amazing.
We have a great example for making a book this way.
That's great. Yes, you do have a lot of great example files. I think developers all over the world appreciate that. Okay, a little bit on creating tables in PDF, the DynaPDF.table module. Can you give us a short overview of that?
Yeah, for years people had trouble making tables by drawing lines and measuring text heights and to decide where to wrap text. And so the table class does it all automatically. You just define how big your table is, then you add rows, you can set flags for header rows, you can set font and sizes, you can have images or other PDF content in a cell. Then you can output it in a loop over several pages in blocks. So it automatically figures out how many lines fit on a certain page. And then on the next page, it repeats the header rows, adds more lines until you're finished. And we have, I think, a nice example for making an invoice this way.
Yes, I've already run into that as a very, very important need for a lot of companies to be able to generate PDFs, generate invoices.
The original idea was there was a client with a FileMaker project. They wanted to make different invoice layouts for different customers. So instead of having in FileMaker 30 different layouts for all the invoices, they just made a table with the parameters and then had this one script to go over these parameters for each client to make the invoices in the way they want. Which PDF to import as the background of the page, what is the coordinate where the table starts, how wide is the table, how high, where to put the date, where to put the address. So you could configure everything.
This is very powerful stuff. You also can handle images and save those, right?
Yes, we can insert images on a PDF page, and if you put the same image on several spots, it will only be once in the PDF file, but then shown on different pages.
let's touch a little bit on merging PDFs. We'll spend a little bit of time on this, but there's a couple of sections I want to really make sure we have time for. So the merge workflow overview. We open, we import, we close, we repeat, and we save. We have a list of key functions on this slide. Christian, is there something you could elucidate for our audience?
Well, usually people ask how to merge, and the thing is simply import several pages from different documents, one after the other, just place them on following pages, and you have your merge automatically. You can do fancy things like import every second page, or import from one PDF, then open the other. You can even have several PDFs open for importing and switch between them to import pages from each other.
Here's a merge example. The code that a developer might use. We can cover, but I think these are pretty obvious things. We do page numbers. We can put watermarks on it. We can put security in these documents. And so there's a lot more we could go into. Let's take a look now at the database server extensions. Perform script on server, schedule scripts, server-side PDF generation, and email. First, if you could, Christian, give us a couple moments on some of the power we get by doing this PSOS.
Yeah, well, you want to avoid having to download all the data to the client to make the PDF. So you move the work to the server where data is already there. It can run in the background. You don't need to block your client. You can just automatically make the PDF at a schedule. And you can have several scripts running in parallel to make a lot of PDFs at the same time.
Yes. And I think we'll cover this in a bit, but one of the things that came up with a client recently was the idea that because it runs on the server and it can use the data API, you could actually instantiate a new PDF from a web page, that you could have somebody visit a website and say, I need a PDF of the thing I just ordered, and it'll make it on the spot.
Yeah, you can run our DynaPDF scripts from data API.
Yeah, I love that. We have also examples in here of batch PDF generation on a schedule side, server-side email with PDF attachment. We put together an example of this with DynaPDF plus SendMail plus curl. Now let's look at the web publishing part we were just discussing for a moment. In WebDirect PDF generation, simply clicking a browser button will deliver a new PDF in a container ready for download in the browser. Is there anything you might want to add to this slide?
Yeah, you can even do the whole thing in a let statement.
Oh my goodness, yes.
You can have fields, and when you type something, it can have a let statement to recalculate the container field to put a new PDF with your new text into it. We once had this example where we watermark each PDFs. So in WebDirect, every user going on the solution would get their own personalized PDFs with a watermark with their name, so we know who leaked the PDF,
These are wonderful examples. We have another example here, WebDirect generate plus download pattern that we'll be sharing with folks. WebDirect email trigger from PDF, and now a little more into the data API. The data API, and what I really like about this is a different way to think about PDFs. The DynaPDF code is identical. What changes, just as we were discussing, is who triggers it and how the PDF gets delivered. And I want to spend just a couple of moments on here because what I think is really powerful is that, Christian, you've developed something here where a FileMaker solution can in effect become a document API. We've got one engine, any document, any industry, with all of the ability to precisely craft these PDFs in any way that you want to. And it's also capable of connecting to people's websites. What did you think when you first sort of had this? I don't know if you had an epiphany, Christian, like when you first thought of this idea to do this.
We started with using DynaPDF functions in FileMaker. And then people came with the idea that we could run it on the server. And yes, of course, I can make a few changes so you can use it on the server. And then came the people with Data API and asked, can you make the plugin work in Data API? And yes, I made the changes necessary. And then there are people like you would tell me that you can trigger it with an API and just output the PDF directly. We never thought about this.
Yeah. Well, I think you would probably, I think everybody talks about how many functions that you've got in your plugin, and with a little bit of a jaw drop, like how did he do that? But I think the responsiveness Christian, you have to the developer community is probably one of the best things that we can laud about you. You produce very, very good work, and you give the developer community more and more of what it needs. So we thank you for that. So we have another example, invoice PDF via data API. We'll allow our audience to look at that when they want to. We have a data API quick reference guide, and we go over all of the information on authentication and session management. Tell me a little bit about the work that you had to do to get all this right as well.
Well, my thing is usually to just have the plugin work correctly on the server context, which means there are a couple of functions I can't use from the operation system because there is no user interface. I can't show an error dialog, for example. It has to run without a user interface. It has all to run automatically. It has to make sure that the permissions are right for the file access. So we prefer functions that run completely in memory. Like we produce the PDF in memory, we import from memory, we don't even touch the file system unless you want us to.
Yes, which keeps the performance right at the top, doesn't it?
Yes.
We can run scripts via the data API, standard CRUD routines. We can do container retrieval and all of the error handling. We have OData integration and all of the security protocols that are built in. All of the webhook handlers that somebody might need. Maybe you could make a comment on this. I know there's a lot of people who appreciate webhook handlers.
So we often have the problem that you have FileMaker Pro running on a computer and you need a webhook to receive some data from the same computer, like with open authentication, where we have to have a callback from JavaScript to FileMaker. Otherwise, you may have other applications which provide you with data, like we once had this little button which you press, and then it would trigger a request to FileMaker, and FileMaker reacts to it. So you can build a lot of integrations with using the webhooks to just receive requests.
Yep. Kind of connects to everything then, doesn't it? Okay, a little bit on the integration patterns and automation. We'll leave this for our guests to look at in greater detail, but this is just an understanding of how you might build this out in a typical environment. Let's talk for just a moment on best practices and troubleshooting. You've got some great error handling in here, Christian. What's the mindset that you typically, think developers have about being able to debug their code, and how do you help them?
Well, the first thing I always tell people is to use our trace function. The trace function writes a log file with all the plugin calls, logs all the parameters, the function names, the return value. If the function takes a long time, it logs the time needed. And especially for errors, you can spot them in the log after the script is finished. You may not know that you made a mistake. You mixed up two parameters, for example, but the log will tell you because you read through it and you see the error message there, and then you can fix your script. Also, I highly recommend people to make sure they clean up properly. Like for every DynaPDF new, you call a release, because otherwise people may end up having a lot of PDF objects in memory, and this slows down your server because it has to do all this page out thing, and your memory gets full.
So always release is important, but I noted that you give the instruction never release all.
Well, for debugging, or if you made a mess and you created 100 PDFs in memory, and then you need the release all call to just clean them up all, that's useful. That's why we have it. But usually you should have your scripts to release all the things on the end that they opened in the script. This may be you create table objects, you create graphics magic images, you may have SQL connections, you may have open file handles. Just make sure you clean up properly.
This is a very well thought out product. We have memory management on the server. Can you speak to that for a moment?
Yeah, well, we have functions to ask what objects we have, how many objects, what objects. You can release objects, of course, but just make sure you don't keep things, you keep filling the memory. Eventually, your server will run out of memory.
Here's a troubleshooting guide we'll leave to our viewers. Performance optimization. This is really wonderful stuff where Christian has done a lot to make sure that these are not bloated files. Can you speak to that, Christian?
Yeah, DynaPDF compresses images automatically when you add them. So you can specify the maximum resolution you like to have. I think the default is 150 dpi. but you can, of course, go higher. Then we have the DynaPDF optimize function to optimize existing PDFs. Like a lot of people place a picture made with their iPhone into a container. Then you have this 20 megapixel pictures and you put them in a PDF as a small icon. And the optimize function will reduce the resolution for that image to the one you want, like 150 dpi again, which is okay for sending us an email and printing in the office. And then if you assemble huge PDF files, you can also have DynaPDF output a few pages to the file already while you make more files. This allows you to make PDFs bigger than 2 gigabytes.
So we could definitely have our servers working all night for us, right? I like that. Now, this is a very interesting section. I added this recently, Christian, and I think it would be interesting to give this a little bit of time. Looking ahead, PDFs as immutable data artifacts, AI-ready document repository, and the model context protocol. To me, as I looked at this, at your ability to produce these PDFs, and particularly because of a large company developing thousands and thousands of PDFs, and what does everybody love about a PDF? It's a frozen moment in time. You know, they aren't messed with. It's not in a database, and so PDFs are really something that are kind of an untapped reservoir, in my view. So we have a lot of companies that already have a lot of PDFs. We have Christian's wonderful MBS plugin that will make a bunch more. Now, maybe you could talk to this a little bit for us, Christian. If we're producing these tons and tons of PDFs, how do you see it working with some of the new AI capabilities of FileMaker?
Yeah, I think that will work fantastically because we produce PDF where the AI can read the text and process it. You can even embed metadata for the AI into your documents. Like you can have invisible text, you can add metadata into the metadata fields, and you can even embed it other things like a JSON or XML representation into the PDF as an attachment.
These are embedded, but not viewable to the person who's looking at the PDF.
Well, if you have the attachments, of course, you can open the PDF in Adobe Reader, and then there's a menu command to see the attachments, and you could see them. The invisible text is another thing which we use, and we also use form fields. For one solution, we have an invisible form field where the value is the record ID in FileMaker. So when FileMaker sees this PDF back, it can actually look up the record.
That's exactly what I had in mind. So that's going to be very, very useful to a lot of people going forward. Where do you see, maybe you can give us an example or two of maybe where some of the new capabilities FileMaker is doing, even if it's something like get text from PDF. Is there a use for that if somebody is an MBS plugin user?
Well, if you have DynaPDF, you can use our text extraction in DynaPDF, of course. It has the advantage that you can say, I want the text from a certain page or from a rectangle on a page. So you could say, give me only that text where I know that there is maybe the invoice number. So I can get specific text. Also, since you can trigger scripts with MCP, it may be good to have a couple of scripts with the plugin where the AI can then do things using DynaPDF, like placing an image on an existing PDF, where you would have the AI pass parameters to say which PDF to open and then what to do and then to close it. So we can extend the functionality that AI can do in FileMaker.
This is going to open up all kinds of things for people. This was just sort of the business case slide. MBS as strategic infrastructure. Every PDF you generate today becomes AI accessible context tomorrow. So I'll leave our users to this, but our viewers, but it really doesn't take a lot to get into your software for all that it does it, Christian?
Yeah, well, usually people just download it, try a few of the examples, find something useful, copy maybe the example script into the solution and deliver it as their work.
We've talked about, kind of the cycle things. We'll let our viewers look at that. We have a quick reference on some of these things, a full list of the resources where you can get in touch with a Christian and how to get it, how to communicate with Monkeybread software. And that's really the end of what we wanted to cover today, Christian.
Thank you for this work. It's amazing to see this PDF.
Well, thank you, sir. You've been a delight, and I really appreciate your time.